Can we see that?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Eyakem, and I have the honor and privilege to serve as the executive director here at Project Houses. And I want to welcome all of you here to our space and welcome you to what I would consider is an introduction to our two newest fellows in the University of Houston's College of the Arts Project Houses Fellowship Program, administered by Sixto Wagan and Ryan Dennis. So Project Houses, we aspire to empower and enrich communities through art engagement and direct action. And this year we are celebrating our 25th anniversary. Yay for that. And a few years ago, we set out on a mission to merge our work and establish a foundation of our work in an academic institution. And University of Houston was, of course, our first choice in doing that work because we are based here in Third Ward, and the university is the largest academic institution in this area. And so we entered into this agreement a little over a year ago after 3 years of research and development, and it's been a journey for us, and we have enjoyed this. We are excited to showcase these fellows and their work tonight, and we hope that you enjoyed that. But we also hope that you come back and be a part of what they are doing in each of their respective practices, whether it's related public programming, talks, visiting with the artists. We just encourage you to do that. I want to acknowledge Dean Davis, who's been a partner with us. He's been with art at the University of Houston. And then I just want to also acknowledge the staff and board members of Project Houses that are here tonight as well. And with that, I'll turn it over to Sixto.
So thank you so much, Eureka. And Brian and I have had an incredible time in this past year in order to work with our pilot fellows, and we're really excited in order to be able to work with Regina and Eyakem. We also want to thank Suzanne Dale Booth and the College of the Arts, who actually provided the funding in order to make this possible. This is year 2 of a 4-year pilot program, and without their visionary funding, this would have just continued to be a dream and a conversation. And so we're thrilled to be in this partnership and learning with y'all. And I think that it was one of the things for us, that this is continuing a research for the university and for row houses as well as the fellows. So that said, it's my pleasure to introduce Eyakem Gulilat, who is one of our fellows. His work is rooted in a quest for belonging, and his work focuses on the complexities of cross-cultural encounter, perceptions of time, memory, and place. He's a photographer with an MFA from the University of Oklahoma and is currently finishing a PhD program in city planning. And there's a lot more information that we could look on the website, and he can actually talk to you more about that. And now? Yeah.
First of all, thank you so much for coming out to hear me talk about stuff I care about. And then I'm definitely thankful for Project Row House and then University of Houston for creating this fantastic opportunity. So with that, I will try to walk you through some of my work. That's my name spelled. And the E is almost silent, so if you silent the E, or if you skip the E, Eyakem sounds pretty cool. So today, I'll briefly introduce you to myself and what I do, and then some of the work that influenced my work, and then what I've been doing, and some of my selected images for the projects that I have done in the past. And then I will talk about a little bit about my plans for the fellowship here. I have quite a bit of stuff to do, but we'll see. Okay, So I am very fortunate to attend the University of Oklahoma for graduate school. I'm not a painter, though I wish I was a painter. I took several courses regarding Native American in art history, or art history revolving around Native American issues. And I think that is where I became sort of conscious artist. So this particular image here, I just wanted to show because as an Ethiopian immigrant, I was really, really fascinated. You know, I don't know if you guys do the same thing that I do. Whenever I see or hear stories, I always put myself into the stories of the tellers to see if my voice is in that. So this particular image definitely did start to influence my art making practices. What are the stories of of the marginalized? What are the narratives that are forging this American history? This particular image, for me, when I first saw it, what attracted me the most was not the actual, the main subject of the photograph. However, it is the the Native Americans and the buffaloes getting away out of the path of this American progress. So I'm consistently questioning where are the stories of people that perhaps look like me, or maybe people of brown color, or whatever you want. So marginalized communities, right? So as a photographer then, I was heavily influenced by Edward S. Curtis's photographs. I really did enjoy the beauty of his work, but then it comes with a whole lot of controversy about how he represented Native Americans as this sort of the vanishing race that they had to make clear. They had to make clear of the land for the new Europeans that are coming to settle. So I am rather interested in that aspect of the portrait making. So I've been making portraits for a while. So with that in mind, I moved to Oklahoma in 2007, and the first thing I found out that was very fascinating was the narrative that Oklahoma was, or African Americans tried to make it a black state. And some of that was revolving around the historically black towns that were formed throughout Oklahoma. There were about 39 all black towns that were forged in Oklahoma before statehood. So this is one of the places that I totally fell in love. Boley was founded in 1903. Rumor has it that two white businessmen tried to create a place to see if black people could actually self-govern themselves. And I thought that was a story to explore, so I went to Boley and I called this project The Promised Land. So when I went there, this is what I found. Desolate and empty. But I refused to believe that this is totally desolate. I mean, so I kept on driving and driving and driving, and there are people, right? So I become quickly interested in what are the narrative of these people, and how and why do they live in Boley, Oklahoma. Obviously, it's understandable. Many rural towns die because of opportunity or lack of opportunity. Most people migrate to city centers. So I went to Boley looking for the narrative that forged the black experience in this black town. And this is the people that I found. Does it change it when I do that? Okay, sorry. Okay, so it was a beautiful experience of finding narrative that perhaps maybe is not fully recorded, right? So going down to a dusty road one day, I came across this beautiful lush land. So these are a Mennonite couple that I found. So the story is that in 1977, I believe, or 1970s, Mennonite missionaries or Mennonites migrated from Mexico to Oklahoma to look for that promised land. Many white landowners would not sell them land because they assumed these guys were Mormons, a different sect of Christianity. So the only place that they could find sort of a place to rest was within the Black community. I thought that relationship was very interesting between the Blacks and then the Mennonites. So the work then took this sort of dichotomy of African Americans and then Mennonites, and I just explored. So some of the things that I was questioning about, how does a place become what it is, right? The Promised Land then becomes this sort of a promise for African Americans looking for that space to be whole, self-governing themselves, seeking some form of freedom from the southern states. So this is in the early 20th century. So Boli had its own sort of narrative that was feeding between that was caught up between two cultures. So one thing, and the reason I put this image up here is rumors have it that rodeo was discovered by Black people, and so the rodeo culture of African Americans in Boli is huge. So in May, there's this huge gathering of people that are participating in rodeo. Obviously, I explored how the education system is completely different from one another. This is a public school that is Oklahoma Public School versus the private school that is governed by the Mennonite church. So churches have the, sort of this interesting layer in my work, and we will talk about it as time goes on. So observing the Mennonites in an African community who were still speaking the old German language made me question my own sort of consciousness as an Ethiopian immigrant. So I started thinking about, I'm from Ethiopia, so how proud or do I embrace, how much should I embrace my own identity as an Ethiopian? Thank you so much. So this body of work then emerged where I traveled throughout the US photographing Ethiopian immigrants and their experiences. Up to this point, I was rather sort of ashamed to be an Ethiopian because of the stigma that surrounds being an Ethiopian. Most people ask if, to this day, if people are still starving, right? Based on this photographic images of starving kid, or I should say, from the 1980s. So here, I'm exploring this idea of how do these Ethiopian immigrants make that space rather differently and uniquely their own. So whether it is through the clothing that they adorn, or whatever little artifacts become this sort of anchoring. Like in this image would be the little house artifacts from back home, and that says Mrs. Wallow. It's a region in Ethiopia, but the competition is happening here in the States. Other anchoring issues, when I say anchoring, these are things that make them feel Ethiopian, are stuff like this that are found in their respective homes. Coffee ceremony that is often practiced almost every Ethiopian homes. And artifacts like that thing over there. I don't know what to call it, but I thought that was a very, very interesting way of reclaiming your own place within sort of this foreign space. That's a living room in an Ethiopian house in DC area. So this question of exploring that Ethiopian identity made me question, if I speak the language, does that still make me an Ethiopian? So this is all like sort of this self-doubt perhaps, and self-discovery at the same time. And maybe for me it was to find satisfaction in being an Ethiopian. So from there, I started a project called Collaborative Self, mainly because I have this love for photography, but at the same time, a dramatic hate for it, right? Photography tells you as much as it does, but also it conceals as much as it does show you. We don't get the full purpose of an image. So I thought maybe I should be more theoretical in my approach in photography. So here I decided, in the same vein of sort of tongue-in-cheek as Edward S. Curtis, carrying Ethiopian clothing and traveling around the US and photographing Native Americans, not just Native Americans, but any American inhabitants. And sort of exchanging this dialogue of what it means to be an Ethiopian by graduating these people. Once they graduate, I dress them in this Ethiopian garb, and then I photograph them. But at the same time, I give them the camera to photograph me, and then the space in the middle is where we took the image. So I'm trying to sort of trying to collapse this 360 view into a two-dimensional platform, which kind of is a fairly easy. So it becomes this rather one long image. Now here I was trying to play with this idea of who's a visitor, who's a photographer, where is this place? Is this in America, or is this in Ethiopia, or in Africa for that matter? So the locality of the space gets completely distorted, and that's the beauty of photography. I get to lie with it, and I'm an artist, and I can stick with that sort of lie. But most importantly, I was really thinking about the relationship between a photographer and a subject. Collaboratively, we make an image to come alive, right? Without the subject, no photography could exist. Without the photographer, that narrative does not happen. So I was kind of exploring that and interpreting the American landscape. So this images took place as far north as Woodstock, New York, and as far south as Oklahoma. Well, no, I beg your pardon, Texas, right? This particular image was made in Oklahoma, and the idea was really thinking and reflecting about, we have red dirt in Oklahoma. Everywhere you dig, it's red dirt. So we come from the earth, then we go back to the earth, in a sense. Okay, so while I lived in Oklahoma City, I embarked upon a new project that I titled Sight Unseen. I wish I was more creative than titling the work something not so generic like this one here. But this body of work was revolving around the 1921 Tulsa race riot. And I was particularly interested in the area where the race riot took place. So when I went to the archive, and there is huge amount of tourism towards the Historical Society looking for this history. The Tulsa race riot is the most explored narrative of Oklahoma. But I decided to take these images with a blurred camera sort of to disrupt the notion of, I think, yes, that horrible history happened. However, that should not be the definition of African American experience within that place, because Tulsa still reconstructed and redeveloped that area. While I was doing this project, some people came up to me and asked me, were you photographing this with teary-eyed? That's why the images are blurry? Sure, yes. I mean, it's such a horrible narrative in American history, right? So from those historical archives, I went into some of the images that were, some of these artifacts that I found that are being archived at an all-African museum. So these are some of the artifacts from the people that survived the Tulsa race riot. Depending on who you ask, it has some economical derivative of the cause of the race riot. To see black people succeed and have a life that is of celebration and ownership and dignity, and the witness of marginalized whites, seeing how African Americans are making names for themselves was for as a result of that cause. So this is the area in North Tulsa of an abandoned building. So for me, I was looking at the space as an archaeologist, and if what is the story that is not being told, and what is missing here? Sometimes I had the privileges of going into people's home where you are, particularly in this image here, you have almost the entire generation being documented on the single home of somebody, of an individual's home. I think it begins with pencil drawing and historic images. And so to me, this image talks volume on the resiliency and the ability to survive within that. And this needs to be celebrated. And this is where I wanted to explore the Tulsa project. Again, but Tulsa was not only the victim of the race riot and constant disinvestment. Highways are one of the tools that have been used sort of to disenfranchise people of color in particular. And this is Arthur, and I was making this portrait, and he was talking to me about where his house used to exist. His family had to vacate the space to make room for the existing the highway that needed to usher people Northern House. So all these images are made in that space, and consistently I'm putting in the backdrop of the Tulsa skyline. They are the people that are living in the shadows, the people that are marginalized. So I was really interested in observing the physical change that is taking place. North Tulsa is not that far away from the city center. So there's always sort of this, of late in particular, and I'm sure you have experienced it, there is sort of this redevelopment of city centers, downtown centers. And that's been happening. So I wanted to give the faces of the people that live there and call that place home. And it's more than a home, it's a place to belong. So the portraits are, hey, those are the people that you're going to this place. But then at the place where I exhibited the work, I opened up an opportunity. There was an opportunity for people to participate by participating in their comments and how they either feel about the exhibit that I was doing in this space, and you start seeing the lingering effect of racism still existing in Tulsa. So these are just a sample of the images that I chose, and so these are 1, 2, 3 people interacting with one another in their absence, and then this is a response to the previous slide about that space. How am I doing on time?
You're doing good.
I'm doing good, and it's like right 11 a.m. So, after this project, I was fascinated by the role churches play, particularly in Oklahoma, and it was my desire to explore that 11 a.m. and I'm deriving this phrase from Martin Luther King Jr. How 11 a.m. is the most segregated hour in American history on Sundays. So I rented a small plane and flew over the city and photographing the space and how do people celebrate Sunday mornings at this particular. So maybe I should do this. So, in the South, churches play a huge role, but this frustration of the division of classes, but then there's this sort of one kind of God, but then, and we will be looking at pictures of and scales of other churches. So, more than that, I was also observing how I'm a believer, so I go to church, so I am bashing myself perhaps. So how these places are used only once a week, but we have these huge parking lots that we can only use once a week. And what is the purpose? And how does that church construction and the space influence the space as a whole? To me, as a person that has a huge heart for marginalized communities, this particular church, I still want to go. I feel I belong here. I feel I can fit in versus the other churches that I showed you. They kind of feel like council, but how do people interpret not only their space, their spiritual being, and how does that in turn transform and shape their environment? So this body of work made me question city planning. So I wanted to understand, do cities create, or do city planners, or do cities create sacred spaces? And what are the formulas that are used to create these sacred spaces? But my studies actually took me completely differently into something else. But definitely, churches then become more than this spiritual well-being, facilitating this spiritual awakening, spiritual well-being of an individual. They become political centers, they become cultural centers. And so, I've still not answered if we city planners create spaces of sacred, and how do we define sacred spaces? So with that said, in my research for my fellowship, I'm going to spend quite a number of, a large amount of my time interacting with churches. It looks like in Third Ward, there seems to be quite a number of churches. And I really want to understand how they create the idea of Black placemaking. I know placemaking has got this sort of cool and hip meaning today. I'm not interested in that coolness factor. Black churches particularly, they've been playing a huge role in African place-making practices, whether through the songs that are being sung as physical spaces, as they are manifesting into this spaces to skip to, and the physical space where people get to be completely Black and alone. And this is not my own thought processes. I stole it from other scholars that have researched that that is a space where Black people feel totally themselves. There are no external and internal issues. And so that would be one area that I would be studying. So while I'm studying this churches, I wanted to know the history of American neighborhoods and how did they come about. I strongly believe that most African American neighborhoods came out of desperate need to create a sense of belonging, survival, sustenance. And I still believe that is what I want and hope to explore as Black placemaking to be a place of resistance, a place of endurance, survival, and I want to see how Third Ward defines that for the rest of us, particularly for me as an outsider, and then to the rest of Houstonians. And I would definitely like to work that together with the community. I can never do this on my own. And again, earlier on we went on a tour of the place, and one of the tour guides was talking about this informal commerce spaces. I would love to explore those areas. To me, those are the creative cultural outlet spots. And why did they come about? How did they come about? How do they self-maintain and propagate themselves in that spaces? Some of those places looked like a car, not manufacturing, I beg your pardon, an auto mechanic shop. was a space. I thought that was very, very, very interesting and very empowering in my process. Sorry for using the photo voice project. It is basically another way of getting the community to participate in interpreting the space by photographing it and then getting together and then getting feedback and telling me more about the photographs that they have actually made. So in a nutshell, I think this is what I want to do through December 2013. Sorry. Doesn't feel like it.
So December 2018.
Pardon me. Okay, so that's me in a nutshell.
Questions? Ms. Gay?
So, all the time people don't know what role they play, part of what, the churches have history. What you'll find in some of the churches is that their old pastors, just this one here across the street, I believe he just retired after 29 years. But these other cultural outlets, like you said, auto mechanic, sometimes people don't know really how they have influenced the community or whatever. How will you talk to them to get that from them?
That's a good question. I think that's what I'm trying to learn here, and I'm not trying to skip the question, but I think it is dialogue for me is a huge part of my work. Maybe that's one thing I forgot to mention. I like to make pictures of people because it would force me to get out of my comfort to create that conversation going, right? So it would be, for me, I don't know the answer, but maybe having a talk with them and saying, affirming perhaps in my own way and saying, hey, I love what you're doing. How many people come and get their cars repaired here? And how do they feel about a car being repaired here? And did you know that you were empowering this person to have essentially a leg? You cannot have a car. Well, I guess you could. I mean, this is a car culture, I think. So your cars become car culture. That's one thing, right? When I was doing my research here, one of the things that I'm fascinated about is the music scene, and I don't know what I'm saying, but I really would love to explore that, right? And so those are some of the things. I think I want to become a student, so that's what I'm going to do. So.
I was wondering, when you were in Tulsa, did you ever get a partial answer to that city planning question? Or are you just recently starting to look into that question? Sacred spaces.
Thanks for asking. Actually, one of the things that made me even want to go to city planning, though I don't know if I enjoy it so much, is the lack of people of color within Oklahoma. I mean, Tulsa does not have a city planning. They have a company that feeds into the city. I did not see any person of color. So I think my desire was, okay, perhaps maybe I should participate in this outlet. So, answer?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm curious when you were talking about like spaces for a spiritual home. So far, your photographs are from the aerial perspective, and then in your other work, there's a lot of negotiation about where your point of view is as a photographer. And it might be a little preliminary to ask, like, what are your ideas since you're not going to be a bird's eye view, you're going to be in the community? Like, what are your sort of thoughts about where the lens is during your year?
Ask me that question again.
So in your earlier projects, you had somewhere it was the shared landscape, you as the photographer and your subject sort of trading spaces, trading point of view. And then you spoke about these spaces, the churches as a spiritual home, but what you showed us so far is from the aerial perspective. So I'm curious about, as you're working with maybe the churches churches in Third Ward. If you have any preliminary ideas of where your point of view as a photographer might land, might experiment with.
Okay, so maybe one of the things I did not answer is, so here I'm trying kind of playing this role of a God because of the aerial. And that was to create a dialogue between the church members or different churches. When we had this exhibit, there were large scale prints to see, to create a dialogue between each church members. But it backfired on me so that, because people will congregate into the pictures that is of their church and say, this is my church, you see, I thank you so much for doing this. That interaction did not happen between these churches as I hoped it would happen. The other thing was, this is a very kid for me. I was trying to get access to photograph the interior of the spaces became a lot of chore, a lot of lack of trust between me as an outsider that is trying to photograph the churches. And I didn't want to photograph church services at all. I wanted this and the interior spaces as a space of a beholder, right? So that did not happen. And I guess with here though, I think the relationship that has already been established by PRH and the community or people that are going to church here, I think I cannot do it on my own. But I think I wanted to have, before I bring my camera, I think I wanted to have a conversation. What is it that I'm not trying to even say? But I think I want to begin with the history of this, the church. So, yeah.
Hi. You mentioned about Black people sometimes being totally free at church. So I was wondering, do you plan on investigating other populations such as gay Black people in the Black church? Or any of those like layers?
Well, that's another interesting layer.
Yes.
So, so when I talked about placemaking, sure, yes. So in my head, I'm thinking, what is that place of Black resistance or Black survival? I mean, it encompasses quite a broader array of things. So that's one of the things. One of the things that I'm excited about this fellowship was, instead of just doing day research, most research that I've found up to this point revolved around conducted during the day. I'm hoping to live here. As such, I want to observe nightlife, participate in that. What does that mean? So I have to go to a number of places. So there is that part. So I'm open. I definitely need guidance from the community since I live here. What is so important to them? Individually, one, and then collectively, two. So those are two complex narratives. Yeah.
Other questions? So Eyakem, you actually have talked about being in residence here at row houses starting in the summer and all throughout fall.
Right.
And there are going to be multiple times that you're going to be here at least for a week during the next few months.
Right.
You have heard there is an invitation from him to you all in order to actually invite him out to other places and other events. And this is actually the beginning of the conversation. And partly here is that we hope that you are continuing to engage Eyakem and all of us in his research, give options, give ideas, challenge us as to what what these things are. And the other thing here is that this is only 1 year in his entire creative research career. The work and the ideas that you're talking about are much larger than a 10-month residency. So I think that's one of the other aspects of how are we actually seeding the ideas right now in order to actually continue to change what the research might be over the course of the rest of your career and where that's at. Any other final questions before we're going to take a little bit of a break? We're just going to keep on going. Okay.
Is there a consensus in the room to keep going, or do you need a break?
Are you ready to keep on going? Oh, yeah, your question.
How are you project row houses gonna engage with the artists in residency and the public to create this interaction? Is it gonna be through social media, or how are we actually gonna be creating that?
So Ryan with Project Rail Houses and myself through Center for Art and Social Engagement. I think the parts of it is that this is the initial introduction. Y'all are here, we will continue to do social media, and also there's opportunities in order to meet with the fellows immediately after this, and also try to engage in a conversation between now and the next. We're looking at pretty much these next few months as a lot of research, and a lot of introductions, and a lot of networking aspect. And we're asking you all in order to help volunteer and be part of that. And during that period, and we are going to be meeting with them over at scheduled time, at least once a month. But then also through social media and through network, email and through all of this, how are we actually figuring out time in between, and in what ways are we here as part of their network, but also for Eyakem and Regina, in order to be able to do this on their own and their creative research. So
I just want to add, so part of the fellowship is we have a brain trust. So based on Regina and Eyakem's kind of goals for the year, we create a brain trust, or they create a brain trust of individuals who they want to kind of consistently build with. And so there are about 3 to 5 people within that brain trust, both locally and nationally, that are maintained for the 10-month period, in addition to kind of informal and more formal interaction that continue to build. And Project Row Houses has been here for 25 years, and so we do have a pretty good standing in this neighborhood and have the ability to make connections and really bring people in for community building. So with that,